My name is Luna. Our today's story topic: The Woman in the White Dress. The old house on Abercorn Street in Savannah, Georgia, had stood for over a century. Its red brick walls weathered by time and coastal storms. Its tall windows, framed with peeling shutters, seemed to watch the world with silent judgment. When I, Simone Carter, moved in with my husband Jerome 5 years ago, I saw it as a fresh start, a place to rebuild after years of city noise and corporate grind. But the house had a way of holding on to its secrets, and I was about to learn just how tightly it clung to them. It was a humid October morning in 2025 when I decided the house needed a thorough cleaning. The coastal rains were coming, and with them, the heavy air that made every surface feel gritty. I'd planned to do it myself, rolling up my sleeves and tackling the dusty shelves and creaky floors with enthusiasm. But then my phone buzzed and everything changed. It was Yvette, my childhood friend, her voice as warm as ever despite the years apart. "Simone, I'm in Savannah for a day. Coffee at the Magnolia Tree Cafe? Like old times." My heart lifted. Yvette and I had shared countless summers running through fields, whispering dreams under starlit skies. How could I say no? But the house was a mess and I couldn't leave it like that. That's when I thought of Brianna Parrish, a shy college student who lived in the alley nearby. She was kind, hardworking, and needed extra cash for her classes. I called her, and she agreed eagerly, promising to be careful with Jerome's precious study and its dusty bookshelves. I left her a spare key, gave her clear instructions, and headed to meet Yvette. The cafe was nestled under sprawling live oaks, their branches dripping with Spanish moss. Yvette and I laughed over coffee, reminiscing about our teenage antics and catching up on her city life and my quieter days with Jerome, a published novelist. Time slipped away until my phone rang, shattering the warmth of the moment. It was Brianna. "Miss Simone," she whispered, her voice trembling so badly I could barely hear her. "Is there anyone else in the house?" My stomach dropped. "No, Brianna. I'm out, and Jerome's at his publisher's until tonight." "Why? What's wrong?" Silence stretched, broken only by her ragged breathing. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she said, "There's a woman on the second floor." She was wearing a long white dress, her hair all messy. I saw her walk down the hallway and disappear into the last room. The words hit like a cold blade. My hand shook, nearly dropping the phone. "Brianna, get out now. Lock the door and wait outside. I'm calling the police and coming home." I apologized to Yvette, who looked worried but didn't press, and sped off, my heart pounding as I dialed 911. I tried calling Brianna again, but she didn't answer. Each unanswered ring tightened the knot in my chest. When I reached the house, a police cruiser was already parked out front. Brianna sat on the steps, her face pale, eyes wide with fear. I rushed to her, hugging her tightly. "Are you okay? Did you see anything else?" She shook her head, lips pressed tight, unable to speak. 2 officers emerged from the house, a stern middle-aged man and a younger woman with a notepad. "We checked every room, closet, and the shed," the older officer said. "No one's here. No signs of forced entry. Doors and windows are secure." Relief washed over me, but it was fleeting. Brianna, still trembling, whispered, "I swear I saw her, Miss Simone. She didn't look real. Like a shadow." I stroked her shoulder, but a seed of doubt sprouted in my mind. The house was old, its dark corners and creaking boards always hinting at something hidden. But a woman? It didn't make sense. Jerome's sedan pulled into the cobblestone driveway, his face registering surprise at the police presence. I explained what happened, expecting concern, but he only smiled faintly, a rare, almost mocking expression. He patted Brianna's shoulder and said, "You must have been tired, honey. Old houses like this play tricks on the eyes." His words were soft, but they carried a weight that made Brianna lower her gaze. I apologized to the officers, paid Brianna, and sent her home with a promise to call if I needed her again. But as the police drove away, the unease lingered, curling around my heart like the Spanish moss outside. 3 months later, I retired from my teaching job. The days of lesson plans and noisy classrooms were behind me, and the house became my world. But the slower pace didn't bring peace. At night, I lay awake, the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall echoing like a heartbeat. That's when I started hearing the noises. They began as faint thumps from the attic, like something small falling. I told myself it was the wind or the house settling, But the sounds grew louder, chairs scraping, footsteps pacing, the rustle of paper like someone flipping through a book. One morning over breakfast I told Jerome, my voice steady despite my unease. "Honey, I've been hearing noises in the attic. It's not the wind. It sounds like someone's up there." He didn't look up from his newspaper. "Rats, Simone. The attic's full of junk. Mouse paradise. I'll get traps tomorrow." True to his word, he set large metal traps at the foot of the attic ladder. The noises stopped and I convinced myself he was right. But then other things started happening. One afternoon I bought spicy sausage from the market, my favorite, though Jerome hated anything with heat. I wrapped it carefully and placed it in the fridge. The next morning a chunk was missing, the cut jagged as if sliced in haste. "Jerome, did you take some of the sausage?" I asked, puzzled. He glanced up, frowning. "Felt like trying it. It was good, actually." His casual tone didn't match the man who gagged at spicy food. A few days later, the entire sausage vanished. No wrapper, no trace. I didn't ask him again, but the unease grew, heavy as the humid air. Then came the day we visited friends in Charleston. We left early and returned late, the house silent as we entered. Upstairs, I stepped into the bathroom to wash up and froze. The floor was soaked, water seeping between my toes. Droplets glistened on the shower walls, as if someone had just bathed. My heart raced. "Jerome," I called, voice shaking. "The bathroom's wet, like someone took a shower." He shrugged. "Probably rain through the vent." I pointed out the dry street outside. "Then a leak," he said, annoyed. "I'll call a plumber." He never did, and the floor stayed dry after that, the pipes showing no issues. The incidents, sausage, water, attic noises, felt like puzzle pieces that didn't fit, yet refused to be ignored. One quiet afternoon, I decided to clean Jerome's study, a room he cherished for its oak shelves and chaotic piles of drafts. I began sorting books, hoping to donate some to the library. Lifting a stack of papers, I fumbled, and they spilled across the floor. As I bent to gather them, a small wooden drawer in the desk popped open with a click. Inside, beneath yellowed drafts, was a leather-bound notebook, its corners worn, its pages filled with elegant, feminine handwriting. My hands trembled as I read. The notebook contained story outlines, character sketches, and plots eerily similar to Jerome's novels, the ones that made him famous. A tale of a woman waiting in a mountain town, another of a buried secret. Jerome hated writing by hand, always using his laptop. Whose notebook was this? A collaborator? A secret admirer? The words felt like a betrayal, though I couldn't name why. I hid the notebook back in the drawer, my mind racing. That night I couldn't sleep, the clocks ticking louder than ever. At 2 a.m., a creak in the hallway jolted me upright. I slipped out of bed, following the sound to the attic door. It stood ajar, a cold draft carrying the scent of old paper. Fear and curiosity warred within me. I shook Jerome awake. "The attic door's open," I whispered. Grumbling, he followed me, but when we reached it, the door was closed, the latch secure. "You're too tense, Simone," he said, his voice heavy with disappointment. "You're not sleeping well. You're seeing things." I lay back down, doubting my own senses, the notebook's secrets burning in my mind. Jerome's new habit only deepened my suspicions. Every night around 10 p.m., he'd retreat to his study, claiming he needed to work on his manuscript. "It's a tough part," he'd say, closing the door. I'd nod, but the distance between us grew, a chasm I couldn't bridge. One night, waking thirsty at 1 a.m., I reached for Jerome and found his side of the bed cold. My heart lurched. I crept through the house, calling softly. The study was empty, the computer off. In the kitchen, only moonlight greeted me. Then passing the staircase, I heard a soft step. Jerome descended, barefoot, holding a clean porcelain plate. When he saw me, his eyes widened, and the plate slipped, shattering on the stone floor. "What were you doing upstairs?" I asked, my voice trembling. "I thought you were working." He knelt to pick up the pieces, avoiding my gaze. "Got stuck on the book. Needed quiet, so I went upstairs. Got hungry, took some food." The plate was spotless, no crumbs or grease. I helped him clean, our fingers brushing, his touch cold and distant. The next morning, the house felt heavier, the air thick with unspoken truths. I couldn't shake the image of Jerome on the stairs, the clean plate, the notebook's handwriting. I began watching him closely, his distracted glances, his late-night work sessions. Something was wrong, and I needed answers. Determined to uncover the truth, I waited until Jerome left for a meeting with his publisher. I climbed to the attic, the ladder creaking under my weight. The air was musty, the single bulb casting weak light over boxes and cobwebs. I searched, heart pounding, until I found a small trunk tucked in a corner. Inside were more notebooks, all in the same feminine handwriting, filled with stories that mirrored Jerome's work. One entry chilled me. He promised to share the credit, but my words became his, and I faded into the shadows. Tears stung my eyes. Had Jerome stolen someone's work? Was this woman the figure Brianna saw? I tucked the notebooks away, my resolve hardening. That night, I confronted Jerome in the study, holding the leather-bound notebook. "Whose is this?" I demanded, voice steady despite my fear. He froze, his face paling. "Where did you find that?" "In your desk. The handwriting isn't yours. The stories, they're your novels, but you didn't write them, did you?" He laughed, a hollow sound. "It's just a fan's gift, Simone. Some reader sent it years ago. You're overthinking this." But his eyes betrayed him, darting to the attic door. I pressed on. "And the woman Brianna saw? The noises, the sausage, the wet bathroom? What are you hiding?" He stood, anger flashing. "You're paranoid. This house, your imagination, it's driving you mad." He stormed out, leaving me alone with the notebook and my doubts. That night, I couldn't sleep. At 3 a.m., a soft thud came from the attic. I grabbed a flashlight and crept upstairs, my heart in my throat. The attic door was open again, the air icy. In the dim light, I saw her, a woman in a white dress, her hair tangled, standing by the trunk. She turned, her eyes hollow, and whispered, "He took everything." I stumbled back, the flashlight falling. When I looked again, she was gone. Trembling, I opened the trunk and found a faded photograph of a young woman, her smile bright but sad. On the back, in the same handwriting, was a name, Eleanor Parrish, Brianna's aunt, who vanished decades ago, a writer who'd lived in this house. The pieces fell into place. Eleanor had been Jerome's mentor, her stories the foundation of his success. He'd erased her, claiming her work as his own, and somehow, her presence lingered, tied to the house. The noises, the sightings, they were her, demanding to be remembered. The next day, I drove to Brianna's apartment, the photograph and notebooks in hand. Her eyes widened when she saw them. "That's Aunt Eleanor," she whispered, tears falling. "She loved writing, but she disappeared when I was a kid. They said she ran away, but I never believed it." I told her everything. The woman in the white dress, the stolen stories, Jerome's lies. Brianna's grief turned to anger. "We have to make this right," she said. Together, we contacted Jerome's publisher, presenting the notebooks and Eleanor's photograph. The evidence was undeniable. Jerome's career crumbled as the truth emerged. His novels were Eleanor's, stolen from a woman whose dreams he'd buried. The publisher agreed to reissue the books under Eleanor's name, with proceeds going to Brianna's family. But the house wasn't done with us. That night, as I packed to leave Jerome, the woman in the white dress appeared one last time, standing in the hallway. Her eyes were softer now, her whisper clear. "Thank you." Then she faded, the air warming, the house finally at peace. I moved out, leaving Jerome to face his reckoning alone. The house on Abercorn Street stood silent, its secrets laid bare. I found a small apartment by the river, where the air felt lighter, the nights quieter. Brianna used the book proceeds to finish college, dedicating her degree to Eleanor. And I, finally free, began writing my own story. Not of vengeance, but of truth, of a woman who refused to be forgotten.